Today's episode of Free Mama Radio is going to be short and sweet, but I have an important message to you, and I hope that it is hitting you at the right time.
You're listening to Free Mama Radio, where we believe you can have both a successful business and show up as the mom you want to be. I'm your host, Lauren Golden, a mom who built a full-time income working part-time hours. Now, I help other moms like you learn how to work from home on your own terms, take control of your schedule, and make more money so you can live a totally awesome, guilt-free life. I am on a mission to make sure that no mother has to choose between family and financial stability. So if you've been wondering, can I really have it all? This podcast will give you the answers.
Hey Mama, welcome back to another episode of Free Mama Radio. First of all, I just have to say thank you so much to everybody in our community who is investing their time and money and energy into themselves through participating in Free Mama Live. It kicked off last Thursday, and it is just one of the things I look forward to more than anything else. So I just want to thank you for taking this time for yourself. And that actually leads me into what today's episode is all about. And if you are inside of the Free Mama Movement Facebook group, you know that I have been on a little bit of a kick lately, and it may or may not resonate with where you're at in your life right now. But it all started for me around the time when COVID really started. And I don't know if you had this same experience, but I felt really called to reevaluate some things in my life and our schedule and my business and my relationships with different members of my family and things that we were involved in. And I think, it was this sudden stillness and quietness that was thrust upon us back in March when people were really, not leaving their house unless you were an essential worker. A lot of people really just hunkered down for a month, 2 months, 3 months. I'm sure there are still people because of health reasons that are still pretty isolated from the rest of the world. And it was a really abrupt change. And I think especially for those of us who are moms and business owners or working, it's very easy to go through the motions of life and get caught up in the day-to-day. And, I've got this appointment and this drop off, and I've got to be here at this time, and we're doing this thing. And we have these routines that are very full. Now, I don't love the word busy. I think the connotation with busy, especially in our culture, is one where people are just proud to be doing more. And I don't think I subscribe to that. But at the same time, I'm very intentional about how I spend my days. And my days are full. And what I realized earlier this year was that maybe they were too full. Maybe I hadn't created enough space to just be. And if you know me, you know that I am a raging extrovert, as I like to say. I love being around people. I love being social. I love talking. I have a lot to say, as do many members of my family. So there's a lot of competition at the dinner table. But something that has been very uncomfortable for me historically is just being and just sitting. Because when we just are being and we're not doing, we really have to be comfortable with ourselves and with our lives. And we have to go inward and really be honest about who we are, what we want, and be fully present. I used to be someone years ago who really lived in the past. I would be really hung up on things that had happened to me, and I felt like a victim of them, or, just resentment still, just a lot of anger and bitterness to, experiences that I had had. And it was hard to let go of. And in the last, I would say 5 to 10 years, I've really become someone who's very forward facing. I'm always looking towards the future. I'm very goal oriented. I'm very good at setting and achieving goals, which I'm proud of. And I think that comes from being incredibly brave and discipline, and a lot of the things that we teach inside the Free Mama community to help you, have better time management and to set intentional goals. The challenge with this is that achievement is not where our worth comes from. And that's a space that I've been sitting in since about March. Is okay, I'm really good at doing. I've left the past behind. I'm not like a negative Nelly anymore, sitting and being like a victim of my circumstances, which I was up until about the time that I left my job and started the Free Mama and my own freelancing journey. But then I was very forward projecting. What's next? What's next? What's the next activity my kids are going to be in? What's the next goal that I'm going to set in my business? What's the next event that I want to hold? What's the next time we're going to get together with friends? And I was not good at being still. And it's still something that I'm working on. But since March, I have felt a very deep calling. I haven't had many callings in my life, probably because I haven't been still enough to hear them. But I've heard this one, and it's really been tugging on my heartstrings for a while. And it really started with paying attention to how I was feeling. And I realized that there was a cyclical nature to how I was feeling. And I realized pretty quickly, probably in April, May, that how I felt was directly related to where I was in my cycle, my female cycle. We'll just be very clear. We're talking about periods here, ladies, okay? And I realized that my mood was very cyclical in relation to what time of the month that it was. And I don't just mean like being, kind of snarky to my husband or, nagging at my kids or being more irritable because of them. I mean, like, there are times of the month where I feel worried. I have anxiety about certain things. There are times of the month where I am laser focused and I can get a billion things done in one day, like a freaking superhero. There are times in the month where as much as I am a raging extrovert, doing a Facebook Live feels hard. By the end of it, I am exhausted, like I just ran a marathon. And it's amazing to me that I had never really caught on to this until COVID forced our family to slow down. We didn't have the appointments. I didn't have, all these things I was rushing off to. We weren't looking for more things to do. We were trying to figure out how to be and maintain and reprioritizing and going, what do we want our life to look like now that we are all, bound by the four walls of our home? What is important to us and what are the things we want to focus on? And we started doing so many more things together as a puzzle. And so this didn't just become an inward journey, but it also became with what does my relationship look like with my spouse? What does my relationship look like with my children? And who are they? And how are they feeling on a given day? And then am I taking the time to honor that and act differently in accordance to these things? And again, some of you might be like, Lauren, okay, you're where are we going with this? I thought you taught people how to start virtual businesses. And I do. But I also feel very called to share with you this journey. I'm kind of calling it a spiritual journey that I'm on. And so I started digging. Well, actually, first, if I'm being honest, I started tracking. That was the first thing I started doing. I started leaving myself notes in my Google Calendar. I'm a big Google Calendar fan. And I started leaving myself notes about how I was feeling. And if I'm honest, my next step is going to be to start tracking how my children are behaving and how they seem to be feeling. But we're not quite there yet. And I would leave myself notes. And then I would just say, worried, didn't sleep well last night. Lots of anxiety, laser focused, overwhelmed, very creative, a little tired, tons of energy, whatever those things were. And I just leave myself these little notes on my calendar. And I asked a couple of my friends about it and told them about this journey that I was on. I started telling my mindset coach what I was doing, who is a man. So it was very fun to talk about my period with him. And I just kept being called to learn more. And as someone who is good at looking forward, but not great at being still, how do I get in touch with that stillness that this global pandemic has awakened me to? And how do I use that to become a powerful tool for projecting into the future and achieving my goals with more ease, or being more present with my family on an intentional basis, or giving myself what I need before I actually need it? And so it started with tracking, and now I'm into this experimental phase where I'm starting to project. I'm starting to go, okay, cool. This is when I should start my next period. These are the days where I feel anxious. It's this many days, or it's this part of my cycle. And it's just been really fun. I feel, like I said, I feel called to be still. And one of the friends that I told about this, that I was just feeling super called to this like spiritual journey of becoming more present and getting in touch with my body and what my body is communicating to my mind and what I need. And how can I use this? How can I leverage this instead of being frustrated that I spend 4 nights out of the month just riddled with anxiety? How do I leverage this so that I'm not working against myself by operating off of this like daily calendar that gets booked out 3 months in advance? And her name is Jillian. She is speaking at Free Mama Live this week. Actually, she's going to do a guided meditation with us. And I'm so grateful for that. And she recommended a book by Kate Northrup called Do Less. And if you are a member of our Free Mama Squad, you know that that is actually our October book club book. So thank you to the 250 women that are in that group who are humoring me by diving a little bit deeper into this concept. Now, the tagline for the book is a revolutionary approach to time and energy management for ambitious women. And number one, I think that defines me very, very well. And I'm sure that will resonate with you as well, since you are listening to this podcast today. But I've just been sitting with this title, if I'm honest with you, this idea of doing less. And I'm going to give a little bit of a teaser, and then I'm going to take it away. So here's your warning. That's your spoiler for what's coming next. We had the most clever idea of something that we were going to do towards the end of this year in our business. It was going to be super fun, and it was going to require quite a bit of work to pull it off, as fun things in business do, right? It requires work. It was going to take about 4 people on my team to pull off, as well as quite a few guest speakers. And I still think it's a great idea. The doer in me, the future seeker, the marketer in me, the ambitious woman is really, really sad not to be doing it. But that's the punchline. I've been sitting with this book, and I've been reading it, and I've been looking at the title, and I've been sitting in my feelings, and I've been preparing for Free Mama Live for 6 months of working super hard behind the scenes and being in this place where I want to feel still and at peace and fully present. Of course, I still have goals. And I realized that this idea that we had, I was just doing it to do it. I was getting wrapped up in that future pacing instead of really sitting and going, how does this benefit me? How does this benefit my audience? How does this benefit my team? What is the overall impact that we will be able to make? And what is the input that is going to be required for us to pull it off? And ultimately, we decided we're not going to do it. Not now anyway. So I hope you're not too disappointed. And that is the point for today's episode. I want to just challenge you to see if any of this resonates for you. Ask yourself some interesting questions. What are your priorities, and how are those reflected in your life? Are you taking time to do less? And like Kate Northrup, do you believe that you can actually have more by doing less? I know that is something that I have been called to this entire year. And I think it requires us to be present. I think it requires us to tap into how we're feeling. And I want to invite you on this quest that I am on to learn how to leverage that. And I have a few more resources that we will include over in the show notes. So if you head over to freemamaradio.com, I would love to share with you some of the ways that I am continuing to learn about this and grow, and some other books that I'm reading as well on this particular topic if it resonated with you. So again, how can you be still? How can you be present today? What can you take off your plate? How can you do less so that you can actually show up and have more? Until next time.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Free Mama Radio. Don't forget to check out Free Mama TV right here on YouTube for hundreds of how-to videos and interviews to help you start, grow, and scale a virtual business from home. If you want to join a community of tens of thousands of moms just like you, make sure you join the Free Mama Movement group over on Facebook. And lastly, if you want to learn more about how we can do this together, work to achieve your goals, and make you our next success story, check out my free training at the Free Mama Movement